The children are free to choose the activities that they want. And it's just beautiful and it's quiet and it's peaceful because everybody is actually working on what they want to be working. They're not being told what to do. So the guide, the adult that is in that environment will, give a lesson to a child who maybe needs the next challenge, or maybe who's, having a hard time choosing or so forth. But otherwise, they're really, working on their own.
Both of us are positive discipline trained too, and it was accidentally, but our paths have crossed in many different ways. So we have similar themes, and I'm excited to share with our folks who are listening or watching a little bit more about Montessori, because it seems to be, what is Montessori? That seems to be the biggest topic. So how would you kind of share your perspective on what Montessori education is, speaking about the training center and then the training we receive?
So first and foremost, Montessori, we have to acknowledge that it is the name of a woman, Maria Montessori, Dr. Maria Montessori, who was an Italian doctor who really focused on children and observing children and discovering how children's brains was working and so forth. And to me, it's just fascinating because I've always said she was a genius before her time, because all of the information that, she discovered through her scientific observation are now being proven through brain scans, through, brain studies and so forth. And one thing, that Dr. Montessori said is, I did not invent a method. I just gave the children an opportunity to live. So I always like to say that Montessori is an education as an aid to life. And the curriculum or the method, contrary to maybe more conventional education, is child-driven, because we know that children are born with this, appetite to learn, and they're curious, and their goal and their task is to adapt to their time, place, and culture. And so we are as trained, you mentioned the word trained, prepared adults. That's our training, right? We prepare ourselves to be in the presence of divine little beings, because, and the education or the method is really driven by them and their curiosity. So there is an extensive curriculum from birth to 24 years of age. It is not only for early childhood education, how, I think sometimes Montessori is defined. And it's really this idea that we are preparing an environment for them that is suitable to their developmental windows. So contrary to more conventional education, where we separate our children by their birthdays, by, how old they are, here we are keeping them in a mixed age classroom for about 3 years, which is that developmental window that they all seem to be, together at the same time. And that was my initial training was 3 to 6. Then I went back and did a 0 to 3 training. So it is child driven. It's mixed age groups. There's a prepared environment. There is this notion that we have freedom within limits, because I think also Montessori gets this bad rap of, oh yeah, it's that school where children, do whatever they want.
Free for all.
Not so. We are very diligent about the limits, and really the environment itself is setting the limits in the beginning. And that's why we prepare it so well. Because, for example, there are, activities on the shelves that are at their level, at their eye level, that they can freely choose if it's been shown, which is one of the limits. But there's only one activity for 25 children. So we have to wait our turn. We're learning social skills, right? There's not 25 of the same thing. So we're learning to share. We're learning to cooperate and collaborate and so forth. So that's really this notion of the prepared environment. And the other important thing is this idea of freedom of choice, meaning that if you have had a presentation on a number of activities in the classroom, you are free to choose that activity for as many times as it is necessary for you to master that skill, right? Who are we to say, oh, no, you've worked with that enough, right? It is the child who knows when they've mastered the skill. And to me, that was something that was fascinating at first, because I actually remember this one boy that was in my classroom, and he was fascinated with one of the math activities, which was these colored bead chains, and it's skip counting. And he would choose that work every day and repeat it and all this. And I remember asking the assistant trainer, like, what can I do? Like, how can I get him to be engaged with something else? And she said, but no, this is his task right now. He needs to understand that. And what was fascinating is, a few weeks down the road, I introduced this multiplication activity. And he was like, oh, that's like the other one, right? He had memorized all of the skip counting, and that was his need at the time. So it's just beautiful for me in the way that we really respect the child's drive to learn. We respect their need for concentration. So we respect their flow. We're not interrupting them every 20 minutes like in most conventional schools. And the curriculum that's in that prepared environment is for the 3 years. So they stay in that environment for the 3 years. They go through, levels of difficulties, levels of challenges. And it's just beautiful. The other thing that I will say is before 6 years of age, the Montessori curriculum is really based in reality. We give really concrete information. We try to avoid, kind of little fairy tales and things that aren't concrete, because the child before 6 is hungry for the real information. They want to know the names of everything, and they want to know how things work and why and what and all this. So we're not going to trick them. We're just giving them the and I know with some parents that's always like hard, because they want to share, some silly children's story that they were, and I say, fine, just wait until 6 when their brain no longer needs that concrete information. And then, like I mentioned already, just the respect of concentration. Like there's this real, we call it an uninterrupted work cycle. And in my classroom, it was 2.5 hours in the morning, sometimes 3 hours, where the children are free to choose the activities that they want. And it's just beautiful, and it's quiet, and it's peaceful, because everybody is actually working on what they want to be working. They're not being told what to do. So the guide, the adult that is in that environment, will, give a lesson to a child who maybe needs the next challenge, or maybe who's, having a hard time choosing, or so forth. But otherwise, they're really, working on their own. And one thing I will say, we talk about the prepared environment, but in that prepared environment is a prepared adult who is a big part of that prepared environment, right? An adult who is trained in the curriculum, who understands the didactic material, who understands the principles of, Montessori philosophy and all of this, and who is really there for the children, right? That we're trained to really be in the presence of what I consider divine little beings who are here, eager to learn and just curious and just so full of love.